things. Number one, the computer sections, and I make this announcement because I don't want you to throw daggers at the Flex software. It has nothing to do with the software. It has to do with a decision made by the board of directors that we are eliminating computer sections as you know them today. That's kind of an antiquated way of searching, and if you are building a system from scratch today, you probably wouldn't go through and manually make computer sections. You would probably map those sections. And for those of you who absolutely have to have those computer sections back, there is a great workaround for you, and that is we're going to show you how to create a map overlay. And I usually have somebody whose Heritage Hill is always the big one. Section 35, I need to know my Heritage Hill. Section 35, you will have the ability, and we're going to help John because we can figure out how to do that. You can actually outline the area that it used to be, and you can name that map overlay anything you want, and you'll probably name that one Computer Section 35, or if you want another area, 46 or 23, or whatever your favorite section might be, you can make it. And you can save as many of those as you want. So you can create as many computer section overlays as you want, and you can search current, and you can search sold, and you can search pendings, and do anything you want, okay? So it's not as if they're gone, we're just gonna help you get to them in a different way, okay? That's the first issue. Secondly, it's important for you to know, today is Wednesday at 2 p.m. You have 22 hours left to make any changes to or additions to your listings in Rappatonee. Beginning noon tomorrow, Rappatonee you'll no longer have the ability to add or edit listings. That includes adding open houses. Thank you. That includes open houses, price changes. The expirations will automatically occur, so if you haven't extended it and your listing expires on the weekend, we will not be able to stop it from expiring unless you do so before noon tomorrow. The next time you'll be able to edit listings won't be until 9 o'clock Monday morning when the new system goes in place. Okay? Now, that seems like a long time, we realize, but you have to understand the amount of data that we're converting is so enormous, you can't even physically imagine how much data that is. And to actually get that much data moved over takes that much time literally to move it and to refresh it in a full scope as opposed to just adding data that might have changed since noon yesterday. So it's a big, big data change for 11 associations going back 15, 20 years worth of data. So it's a huge, huge change. And the other thing, there's 3. Thank you. Saved searches. You have your prospects, their names, their contact information have been moved over. But the saved searches related to those prospects or any saved searches you may have named whatever are not transferring over. So you want to begin moving those over to the new Flex system. You want to go into Rappatonee, and there's instructions in your checkoff list here that you received at registration on where to go to get your saved searches on Rappatonee. It also on that checklist says don't start adding them to Flex, do start adding them to Flex. Okay, that was true at the time we got this, but you are welcome to start adding those into the Flex system. If you don't get those all done, the Rappatonee system, although you won't be able to edit a listing, will be available for viewing through the 30th of this month. Okay, you can't add or edit anything, but you'll be able to view what's there. And the information won't go backwards, so once we convert to Flex, we're not shipping that information back to Rappatonee. So what's in Rappatonee on January, or excuse me, geez, it's been a long week. What's in Rappatonee as of noon tomorrow is what will stay and freeze, and it will stay at that point. Other than expirations will continue. Okay. So whatever you need, make sure you get it printed out or able to get in and look at it. We'll give you a new link to get to the old SWMRIC once we've converted over on Monday. Okay. So let me introduce our guest speaker today. She comes to us from FBS, who owns the Flex MLS system. Christine Connolly has been with them for about 2 years. FBS is located in Fargo, North Dakota. About 80% of their employees live there. 20% of them are kind of all over the U.S. of A., but she does come from Fargo, though she doesn't speak like them. Christine has, although she's been with them for 2 years, she's actually been doing software training for more than 12 years. So she comes to us having had a lot of good experience. She's very good about answering questions. At the same time, she's going to be wanting to keep on schedule for those of you who have reserved the time specific to this class today. So if one of the questions relates more to a policy issue than a software issue, hopefully somebody from BRAR, we've got a couple other things going on here, so hopefully somebody from BRAR will be able to be in the room to answer that question. Otherwise, we'll make sure to get the answer to you at some point. Okay, so warm Grand Rapids welcome for Christine Connolly.
Well, I think out of all our 4 trainers, I lucked out on my location this week. You guys have a great location here, so I'm happy to be here. We have a lot to cover. You have an outline, and I am going to follow this outline, sort of. I might skip a couple of things just to make sure we get all the important items that people have been asking about in here. Now, a couple of things to point out. I noticed some of you guys have devices in here. You are more than welcome to follow along on your device. This is not a hands-on, step-by-step class. We're going to brush the surface of a lot of topics so you can start diving in and using the software. So I can't stop and walk somebody through something I've just done, or we'll never get past the first, probably logging in. So feel free to follow along. If you use a Mac, if you use a PC, use whatever device you're comfortable with. FlexMLS is fully supported on either device. Whatever browser, if you use Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, whatever you're comfortable using to access the internet, use the latest version of that browser. iPad version 2 or later, FlexMLS Web is fully functional on that as well as some of the newer tablets. If you have an iPhone or iPad, we also have an app, a FlexMLS app that is beautiful. It works really well. So there's information on that app on the very last box on your outline. You log in, you can download it through the App Store and use the same username and password I'm about to give you for that app. If you are somebody who has an Android phone, that app is in development and testing right now, so sooner than later in 2014, we will see that app release as well, so everyone will be happy and be able to access your MLS information on a device of your choice. So let's go right into logging in here. Now, your outline here, the one thing to note, it says to log in, go to swimrick.com. Well, not yet. Because right now, if you go to swimrick.com, you are logging into Rapatoni. And they need to redirect that site to FlexMLS, which they have not yet because you're still active with Rapatoni. Therefore, in the meantime, go ahead and go to ric.flexmls.com. You can bookmark it. I mean, you can always go to that, but I'm sure they want you to go to swimrick.com once we get the redirect in. But that'll get you the same login screen. And then your username. Every one of you in this room will have a username, and it will start with the lowercase letters RIC period, followed by whatever you use now. I believe it's a G number. You will put that after the RIC period. You will always use that. Probably one of the biggest support calls we get after a new MLS goes live is, I can't log in. Are you using that RIC? Yeah. Are you putting that period? No, I don't really need that. Yes, you do. I promise you do. So RIC period, that's a unique identifier. We have MLSs from all over the country. So when you call in and ask for help, they'll say, what's your username? As soon as you start to say RIC, we can get into your database and start to look at your MLS system. The password the very first time you log in will be the lowercase letters RICNOW. RIC now. That will prompt you to change the password of your choice, and you'll be logged into the system. Then you'd use the username and password combination of whatever you reset it to. Now, I know you guys might have your mobile devices in front of you, but I encourage you to go to FlexMLS Web, log in the first time, and reset your password, And then from that point on, you can log in to your other devices. Now, I keep getting this question. So if you have one computer open and you log into FlexMLS with that username and password, and you open another computer somewhere and you log into FlexMLS, you'll get in, but it'll bump that computer off, just so you know. But everybody should have their own username and password, no matter what your role is, so everybody should get one. You shouldn't have to use somebody else's. If you are on your computer working, and you break out your iPod, or iPod, iPhone, whatever, and you go to FlexMLS, the app, and you log in, you will not bump yourself out of the computer. You can have both of those going. And our timeout is 12 hours. So if from the time you have not touched anything in the system, it will not automatically log you out until 12 hours from that time. And somebody go home and you guys can figure everything else out. Okay, so we're going to get logged in. If you're having problems with that, we'll address it at the end of class because I can't sit and do login items now, but we'll make sure everybody gets in. And when you do log into the system, this is the screen you're going to see, similar to this. I will first point out in every class you'll ever hear me teach, you'll hear me teach webinars from this point on as well. You will see a help button in the top right-hand corner. It is important. Some of you are self-starters. You've been here for a month. You don't need help, and that's awesome. But there's so much into a system that even I click on this help button still. And if you click on the help button, it gives you context-based help, meaning wherever you are in the system at that moment, that's the help that's popping up on the screen. So if I were in doing a CMA and got stuck and didn't know which button to click, I press that same help button, and help relevant to that piece of the system will appear. So you're not searching around for help. But also note next to that help button, there's that drop-down arrow. There's user guides that you can view and print out. Forums, where you can go in, ask questions, look at tips and tricks. We post announcements of new feature releases in there, even a bug report. Say you have an iPad, and you know, iPads update so fast with the operating system. And the newest operating system comes out, and you go on FlexMLS, and a list won't scroll down. Don't get frustrated. Let us know. We're probably going to find it out through people, but go ahead in the forum and report a bug and just say, hey, that list isn't scrolling, because we might need to meet up with the demands of the quick updating operating systems of those devices. So please let us know. There is a button to contact support. This information is also on your outline. Our outline's been through a lot this week. There, it says support. It has our email address and phone number. So when you call us, you have the ability to call us Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's Eastern time, you guys. So between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m., give us a call. You are calling my office in Fargo, where our support staff sits. We don't outsource or anything. Everybody's right there. Probably somebody with that accent you're looking for. That Fargo accent, they'll have it. And they are super helpful. People who have been there for many years, have been immersed in the system and know the answer to your question. If they don't, they will find it out and they will get back to you. So please call us. Don't get frustrated. That's why we're there. When you learn this new system, we want you to call and ask questions so we can make the transition as easy as possible. Because I know transitioning to a brand new tool for the job you do every day is a difficult one. So please call us. There is that email address if you don't have time to make a phone call or you want to set up a time for somebody to call you back. Utilize that email address. Finally, I want to point out these video tutorials. These are quick 3-5-minute videos. You can click on a topic, pause, fast forward, rewind, stop to the point that you need to be at. For instance, one of the very last things I'm going to cover today is automatic emails and saved searches. And by minute 75 or 80, you may no longer be listening to me. And that's okay. But you might want to know how to do that when you get back today. And there is a tutorial on that process that you can watch and mimic the steps as you're in the system. I'd also like to point out, I know there's probably some appraisers in the audience who some of what I say is not going to be relevant to what you do. But you may need to access that 1004MC form, and there is a tutorial showing you exactly how to access that form and run it from our system. So it's a good thing to note. And at the bottom, you'll also see a link to our webinar library. At least once a month, our training team provides webinars open to any MLS. And you guys can log in, sign up. If you don't show up, you don't have to. You'll still get a recording emailed to you. But ask questions, listen to somebody teach from maybe the comfort of your home or in your office with your coworkers. So we record all of them, and we pop them into the webinar library. And we keep it fairly recent. We don't want to give you anything outdated. But you'll see we've done stats and customizations, new features, working with buyers, working with sellers if you're interested in the CMA tools, iPhone, mobile. So some options there to go in, and as you get familiar with the system, learn a little bit more. Now, there is, I also want to point out, an Appraiser Tools webinar that one of our trainers did in the past few months. Again, if you're an appraiser and you need some detailed information just specific to what you do, that's a great one to watch. So again, that's all in that drop-down arrow under the Help button. Now, the last few navigation items here I want to point out, the top left-hand corner of the screen when you're looking at it is a FlexMLS logo. That's kind of like a home button. So no matter where you are in the system, click on that logo and it's going to bring you back to what we call the dashboard, this screen right here. Always get back home. And then note next to that FlexMLS logo is something we call our quick launch bar. And don't ignore that bar because it's really going to help you. It's kind of like a one-stop shop to find things in the system. Especially when you're new to the system, you could type a menu item in there and have it appear rather than searching through the menus. You could type in an MLS number. You can go ahead and type in an MLS number or an address. And notice as I'm typing in a number, the list is starting to complete and match what I'm typing in. So for an address, it would show the most recent time that address was listed, followed by the other times it was listed. Here I have an MLS number. So let's just give the example that you're in FlexMLS and you're running a search. You're right in the middle of the search and you've got all this criteria in. Somebody calls you and is interested in the listing and they have the address. Well, you don't need to save your search or stop what you're doing. Go to the quick launch bar and type in that MLS number or address. If you mouse over whichever result you're looking for, and you travel to the right, there's a little box with an arrow. And if you click there, it's going to open that in a new browser tab or window. So now I have a tab where I started, and a tab labeled with the address of the listing that I had typed into the quick launch bar. So you didn't lose your work. And I really like that the tabs are labeled because if you're like me, you probably have 6 or 7 tabs open at the same time as you're working and never know which is which and spend half your time clicking on all of them. So now it's right there in front of you. I'm actually going to switch browsers here. I am in the wrong account. There we go. So back to my FlexMLS dashboard and that quick launch. So address, MLS number. Say I'm looking for a member named John. I can go ahead and start typing in the word John, and anything that has that word in it will appear in the list as well. So I can quickly get to a member, get their information, get a link to their listings, and so on. Also, as you use the system, if you just tap your mouse in there, once you start creating searches, your 5 most recent draft and saved searches will appear in a list, so you can pop back to one of those. If you do teach people in your office how to use this, I'll do this a lot. I'll be in the middle of a search, and I'll close the window, and I'll want to get back to where I was. If I tap my mouse in the quick launch, if I were a real agent here, it would drop down and show me my most recent searches so I can get right back to where I was. And then also, if you just want to start a quick search from this screen, the system understands what you're saying and starts to understand your language. So you might say, I want a 3-bed, 2-bath in Brand, wherever, and continue to type. And you start putting in main list criteria, and it starts a simple search for you. If I click on that, it's going to open, if I click on the first one, a residential search already populating that I want 2 baths, 3 beds in Granville or whichever I typed in. So it'll start that search for you. So just some ideas. And just note that the quick launch bar is also in mobile and on your app, so it functions the same exact way on your app. And then finally on this main screen, we call this your dashboard. Won't spend too much time here, but just note that when you log in, you'll have these rectangles or squares of whichever size your screen is, and we call them gadgets. We have gadgets for many things, from your saved searches, to your contacts, to your hot sheets, to market stats gadgets, newsreel gadgets. And not only can you drag and drop and move these guys around, each one in the top right corner can be customized, so maybe narrowed down. I use the example that I put a hot sheet gadget on here, narrowed it down for very specific sub areas. So I just see the hot sheet for those sub areas. You could have 5 hot sheet gadgets for all different areas you watch every day. You can go to the customize button in the top right hand corner, add gadgets, change layouts, etc. So there's a lot you can do with that dashboard. Half of you will look and say, cool, I'm going to go mess around and play with things and add some links and all different items. And then half of you will say, you will never touch this. You'll just go in and do your searches. And that's okay too. But the option is there to start to customize it. You can't hurt it. If you remove every gadget, you can get them all back. If you add too many, you can remove them, move them wherever. So are there any questions before we get into the exciting stuff? Yes, there is a question.
When you're talking about recent searches, are they identified?
What'll
Or
happen?
are they just recent search?
Well, what'll happen is you will see a list like this, and it'll say whatever the 5 most recent are. So if it was a draft, it will just say draft ran 3 minutes ago. And then it might say saved search. Bob saved search ran 1 hour ago. Draft search ran. So it just goes in that specific order, and it'll bump down as you add more searches. Okay. Anybody else on logging in, dashboard? Oh. All right. One other thing before we get into adding listings here, your profile. So we've talked about what pulled over. Your listings came over, your listing photos, virtual tours, documents, your profile information, name, address, phone number, your contacts came over. But one thing that doesn't come over is your actual profile picture or your logo or photo, whatever you use on all of your branding. You need to add that back into the system. So this is some homework for you, I guess. Because if you want to email something from our system, print out a listing report, create a user portal, create a business card on emails, all of those pull in your headshot or your logo. If it's not in the system, that'll be blank. So in order to add that, you'll find it in the Preferences menu. And the first option in that Preferences menu is your profile. So you can click and go into your profile, and there's some quick profile maintenance where you could make some edits to your profile based on what you're allowed to do. Each association has different things they are allowed to and not allowed to change. So whatever you've been allowed to change, be it your name or phone number, you can do it in there. But focus down on this bottom left-hand corner. It says personal photo and logo. And that's where I'll direct you to go to add your own logo or headshot. Clicking on there, anything that you start to add will be listed here. And there's a new button, which will lead you to a screen to venture out and search for a photo on your computer wherever you may have it saved. If you call us, we cannot tell you where you have your picture saved on. Yes, but we don't know. And so you can title it, you can browse for it, and when you browse for the photo, it'll say whatever file you have selected, and it will pop in. Now, we have kind of a default size here, this gray box. You'll just see the gray box, and that's about the size it'll be on everything. You could certainly make it bigger or smaller, but that's our suggested size. And there's even an option, okay, you can use our suggested portrait or landscape based on whatever you put in and how it looks best. Don't have to touch that, but you can. And the green arrow or plus and minus sign make it bigger or smaller. And I always tell people you could uncheck the preserve aspect ratio. And I like to make myself a little bit skinnier, a little bit taller. I'm lacking in that area, so, no, really. But just preserve that aspect ratio, but you'll make it look the best. Bring in a bigger photo and it'll shrink it down there. So that, again, is under Preferences and My Profile. So go ahead right away and just get that in. Because when people search in a list, your pictures will even come up there. And the other day I was trying to build a report just to get an example with an agent photo, and nobody had their pictures in yet. Now I'm hoping by tomorrow there'll be lots of pictures in after all these classes. Okay, so right into adding listings. Like we were told at the beginning of class, you will finish adding or editing listings in your old system tomorrow. You will not be able to add or edit a listing until Monday morning, the 15th in FlexMLS. So I'm going to go to this Add Change button right here. If you are in front of your computer now, you will not see this Add Change button. And I can guarantee at least one class, somebody will come up to me afterwards and say, I can't find that Add Change button. And no, you will not see it yet. It will appear when broker load settings come in starting on Monday. So what you'll see under there is, of course, an Add button if you have the ability to add and edit listings. Change, My Incomplete. Those are incomplete listings that you have created in FlexMLS and not made active listings yet. Incomplete listings from your old system are not coming over. You may see my unmapped, but in our system will require you to map them, so that'll dwindle. And then, yes, you have a copy function. You click copy, type in the MLS number. Whatever your rules were before for copying, they will be the same. So if you could copy your own or somebody else's or whatnot, those will be. So let's go ahead and click on Add. And the first thing I want to do is select a property type. I'll drop down this menu, and I'm just going to focus on residential today, just because that's probably what the masses are used to. There'll be a listing member. If you add listings for multiple people, obviously you can just start to type and select that listing member. Co-listing member, same idea. And then you'll see options for parent-child. You can totally ignore that unless you need to do parent and child listings. Somebody made me laugh the other day. They were like, does that mean I can sell my children on the MLS? And I was like, no, although I'd want to sometimes. But that is not at all. I think you had redundant listings, I believe was the term in your old system. The basic way to explain that is you have a big, say, piece of land that you're going to sell. And you put it on the MLS, and it has an MLS number. And then the seller also says, but if somebody wanted to buy half of the land and somebody else wanted to buy the other half, I'd be willing to sell it that way as well. So then you could list both of the children or the pieces of land separate. They would be the child listings. And if the parent sold, the child listings would automatically close. So they connect, so you could sell them either way. So that's kind of my quick explanation of what that is. The address tab, if you just bear with me 1 second, I'm going to quickly add a listing. And as you look at this, you will notice that some of the fields are red, maybe pinkish based on your eyesight, and bracketed. What this means, if you see a red field, is that it's been deemed a required field by your MLS, and you must fill in that information before adding the listing. So they have told us which fields to make required. And some of these fields are related, so it's not until I select one that then the next one opens so I can select that. So I have my address information in. And notice here what happens when I switch from the address tab to the main listings tab here, or main field, excuse me. The system is going to geocode map my location based on what I typed in. So I would say probably like 98% of the time, you're going to look at this after you enter the listing address and say, yeah, that's my location. All right, it's mapped properly. To move on to the next screen, you just click the Use This Location link. You can switch to satellite, zoom in or out, and you may look at this and say, okay, this is my listing, but as I zoom in, I'm noticing that the push pin really isn't directly on the property here. It's more in the street, and I want to be really accurate with my mapping. So I'm going to take the extra few seconds to grab this push pin, drag, and put it directly over the property. When I'm confident that I have it in the right place, then I'm going to click Use This Location. And you may get this box that pops up that's confirming or verifying the address. On the left is what I typed in. On the right is the address that the geocoder is pulling in. I would always suggest you go with the geocoder address, unless it's wrong for some reason. That's going to help with data accuracy for your MLS. Because as listings are entered on the same street or the same one year after year, it's going to be the same address, and searching will get easier and easier as you do that. And I also like to tell people with mapping, take the few seconds to move the push pin if necessary. Our map searching tools are extremely powerful. We have great shapes that you can draw. But if you type in the address of your house and it's right here on the map, and the pin's right here, and you don't take the extra time to move the pin, and somebody has a search right here, even if your listing meets all the criteria, if you've not mapped it or pin's in the wrong place, it's not going to come up in the search results. So it's a benefit to you to have it mapped in the appropriate location. So once I get, knock the TV off the wall, once I get to this screen, I'm at my main fields. Pop down, enter the information. You all are familiar with the fields that you have that you add. I am going to scroll down here a little bit. Your remarks, you have the marketing remarks, agent remarks, marketing, copy, advertising, same options you had in the past. Now, notice on marketing remarks here, if I tap my mouse in this box, it says you have entered 0 of 800 characters. Your marketing remarks were 1,000. But once you get to the 800 limit, you'll notice that there is a button over here that says more. Little scroll. And if I click there, you get an additional 10,000 characters to write a short story or novel about your listing if you would like. Now, some of you are like, yes, I get to write a lot. And some of you are like, no, I don't know why people write a lot. Well, it's your own choice what you want to do there. Do not worry. If you're worried about the 10,000 characters making your detail report 3 pages long, that's not the case. When you look at a report and the marketing remarks are there, once you hit 800, there's a more button. And you click and up will pop the supplement. When you want to email, you can say, I'd like to email this listing. Yes or no, would you like to email the supplement? You'll see that later. Print it out, same thing. Would you like to print it on a separate page? It's up to you. And even though your listings had 1,000 characters before, we did not chop off the characters and you don't have them anymore. The initial 800 will be in the public remarks or marketing remarks field. And then the supplement, the extra 200 carried over to there. So we didn't take away any of your data. We pulled it over. It's just a little different. Now note at the top here as well when you're adding a listing where it says residential, you'll see it says last autosave at 2:35 p.m. About every 2 minutes, FlexMLS automatically saves your work when you are adding a listing. So if your computer decides to update and restart, or your power dies and you did not realize it, you have not lost all your hard work. It will save where you were as an incomplete listing. When you go to the incomplete listing screen, it will just have them labeled by address, because you've probably gotten at least that far. And you can click on it, get back to where you were, and finish adding your listing. Now, with that, I am not telling you to not save your listing. That is not what I'm saying. This is a fallback. So when you're finished adding or you want to save it for the day, make sure you still click the Save as Incomplete, or if you've filled in all the required fields, click the Add Listing button, of course. That is just a fallback. Then the last other little piece of time saver here is right now, this button here says Show All Fields. If I open up that option, it says I can show all fields. Let's not fall out of this chair, but I've been standing all day. Show the required fields only, so that would close it up and just show those red required fields. Or show just the empty required fields. So I've entered 80% of the listing. I don't want to go scroll through and see what I missed. Just show me what I really need to get added to get this listing on MLS. So incomplete listings do not generate an MLS number. Only once you hit Add Listing will you generate an MLS. I'm going to click Save as Incomplete, and I want to show you the screen that pops up here. For an incomplete listing, we can print the listing. And the neat thing about this is if you do click to print the incomplete listing, you can print it into the input form. So you just print the input form, so maybe you've entered all the data you know. You can print it out, it's nice, neat, populated, then bring it over to the seller's house and continue to write whatever you need in there. Listing information, you can go back and edit the listing information. And then finally, you may add photos to your incomplete listings. So get the photos on and then get it on the MLS. So if I click on photos, we have what we call a bulk photo uploader. What that means, I'm going to break the TV. We'll replace it. What that means is you could possibly just open up a folder of pictures on your computer. Highlight as many as you want, drag and plop them right into the photo uploader, and get them all uploaded that way. If you don't feel comfortable with that, or you're not quite sure what I'm referencing, there's also an Add Files button where I can click there, navigate out to my computer, and select as many pictures as I want, and open them into the uploader. Right now, you do not have a limit to the number of photos you may add to a listing. So it's unlimited.
Wow.
The maximum photo size per photo is 15 megabytes per photo. Now that's a big photo. If you're a professional photographer or you have one, we've been asked to do that so some people don't have to keep resizing their photos smaller and smaller. We have a great high-res photo slideshow, but people like to have those big photos in there. I don't think the average person is going to upload pictures that big. It, of course, would take a little bit longer, but now you don't have to reduce them in size. So I have them here, and I'm going to start this upload. Now, with the number of photos, I do want to point out something. Even if I add 150 photos to my listing, when it sends out to Realtor.com or Zillow or wherever else, it is not FlexMLS's choice of how many pictures they take. We open the floodgates and say, here's all of the photos for each listing. They choose how many pictures of yours they take. So if they have a max of 40, that's all that's going to show up on there. So you all would know much better than I do what their max number of photos is that they take from your listing. So once your pictures are on here, it brings you to the photo screen, and you'll notice right away that the first picture on the left-hand side, the dining room here, has a red flag that denotes it as the primary listing photo, meaning the first one out, the first one on the report, etc. But maybe I want the exterior here to be the primary. If I click on it, underneath the photo, the next to last button says Make Primary. And I can click there and make that my primary photo. But perhaps now I want to reorder all my photos on the left. I can just drag and drop them and reorder them however I would like. And then your other options for photos are really pretty simple. Add more photos. That edit button is just editing the description or the caption. So it's not doing any physical photo editing, it's just the description or caption. Rotate, which I think is great. A lot of you are taking your pictures on your iPhones, and occasionally they all come in sideways or the way you're holding your phone. Just rotate them in. Make primary or remove. Okay? And another thing people get wary about is, oh, you're letting us put all these photos. It's going to be impossible to email these customers. They're going to never be able to open their email. That is not the case at all. Because all the emails are links that redirects them to FlexMLS. They don't have to log in or anything. It just redirects them, and they see all the photos there. So emailing a listing with 5 photos versus emailing a listing with 500 makes no difference on the user's end. They'll be able to access them all. So that is the incomplete listing. Now, say once you get in the system, the 15th comes around, you know how to add a listing, but now you want to make changes to current listings. You want to do a price change, close a listing. In order to do that, you have to find the change button. And there's multiple ways to do this, but I think the easiest way is to go to that Add Change menu and select the second option that says Change. I don't have any listings in here, so I need to flip users real quick. So I'm going to go to that Add Change menu and select Change. When you do this, I'm logged in as your MLS here, so a bunch of listings are going to pop up. There we go. It shows you all your active listings. You could type a list number in the top, but you can just find it here, or where it says Show My Active Listings, you can open that up. Please show my pending, show my sold, or whichever you're looking for. So I find a listing, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that list number because now I want to change this listing. When I get to the change screen, I can, of course, change the listing information, supplement, map, etc., all those items. On the right-hand side, I can add more photos, remove them. Add documents. Now, remember, the documents are coming over with all your listings that come. This is from now on. With documents, what I'm meaning is maybe a disclosure statement, floor plan, whatever those documents are that you typically use. Notice the terminology here may be different. We have public, and private. Private is just the agent-only information that other agents would be able to go to your listing and see, or somebody in your office, that would not be sent out to the public. Public would be those documents that a potential buyer could see. And so we'll use that on reports as well, public and private. There is a fax-in option. If you do not have access to upload a PDF to this, you could go to your fax machine, click fax in. It will print you a cover page that's linked to this MLS number, and you could just fax in all the documents, and that'll automatically link them into your listing. So a lot of you now, if you have a fax machine, it probably is a scanner too, so you could upload it, but we're happy to do that for you as well. Okay, then finally, videos and virtual tours. You'd put the links in there wherever you generated the link, be it a virtual tour provider, or if you uploaded it to a site and got a link or HTML code, you can pop them in there. Schedule open houses and tour of homes. And then finally, on the bottom left, you're not going to see all these listings. You won't see this remove. But whichever options you had before, you will have now in that list. So if you're able to append a listing, you will still be able to append a listing. Do a price change, same thing. You won't see options you didn't see before. Yes?
So currently, in an incomplete listing, you can choose to print a fact sheet and send in documents. You can't do that.
At this very moment, no.
Will that be staying that way?
It has been requested from you all, actually, that we add documents to incomplete listings. So that is an issue that is being, we just haven't done it before. So I can't give you a date because I'm not a programmer, but it's been requested. So, yeah. And it's not being ignored either. So,
Okay.
yeah. Any other questions? So that is the add change process. Now, when we brought all your listings in, I am extremely confident, because I've been through many of these conversions, that everything came over just fine. Documents are the last thing to come over, so they might not even be on your listings yet. If it were me, and it were my listings, no matter how confident I am, I'd still go in and spot check some of my listings and say, hey, are all 50 photos there? Or are all my links working when I click on the virtual tour? Because if there's not something, please let us know so we can check. And just, call in or email and say, this list number in Rapatoni, it had 37 pictures, and Flex Melissa, it has 25. And somebody will look into it. So we don't want you being stuck like, this software, it's not working. There's many of you, and there's many listings, and we want to make sure that everybody gets what they're looking for. Let me switch back to my other browser. Yes.
I see that it says pend listing on there. Is that something we're going to be able to do now? Is pend our listings even if they're not contingent, like as far as like a short sale?
I can't answer that question since I don't work for your board here. Like I said, whatever you were able to do before, you can do now. And some of you will see some options and not others, depending on what your broker load settings are. That'd really be more of an MLS level question. Okay. So once we add listings, I think the next thing that I really want to focus on today is searching. I have member lookup written on this outline, but I already showed you that. Type a member in the quick launch and you can find it. Type an office there, you can find it. So let's look at searching. This search menu has a whole bunch of options. There is an address search feature. Now remember, the quick launch bar, you could type in an address and quickly access it. This address search, I would say, is a more detailed search. You can narrow down by statuses or date ranges of status changes, property types, including only your listing or office listings. Maybe you want to know every active listing on Main Street from 100 to 1,000 block of Main Street, whatever. So that would be a more specific search for you. Under search, there is also an MLS number search. This is simply type an MLS number, comma, as many as you want, and it brings it to the search results screen. I see this used a lot because it brings it in that order, and then you can just pop them out to driving directions. You could certainly reorder them, but you don't have to since you typed them in a particular order on that screen. There's one other option on the screen to find listings within X amount of miles with a certain status that you might be using for, comps. But that's not as specific. You can use that, but we have other ways to do that as well in our mapping. So what we're really going to focus on here today when you go in the system and you're ready to do a search, you are going to use the quick search. Some people are like, well, where's the full search? That is a full search. You search on every available field in that particular property type in the MLS. It's just quick and powerful and a little bit cleaner to view than seeing every field on a screen in front. It goes hand in hand in the map search, so I can open either the quick search or the map search, and I can narrow down, say, on the map first, and then break down the criteria further, or vice versa. So you'll see both of them in this example here. So let's go to quick search. And what you see first is your available quick search templates. And what you always see when you first log in is probably just these 1 through 7. I've started creating my own. So if you deal with commercial listings, go to commercial. Residential, go to residential. There is a multi-property search, so that would allow you to search for listings based on fields that are common across all property types. That's how that would be narrowed down. But let's just stick to residential for this example. So regardless of the property type, the functions are exactly the same. The fields may be different, same function. And when I click on this quick search and click use, I am brought to my quick search. Now, that quick search template defines which fields I see here on the left-hand side. And I'm a little zoomed in for presentation style. You'd actually see a bit more on your screen in front of you. And I can drag this bar down and see some fields. So let's just look, and I'm going to click on property subtype and narrow it down. I'm not hitting enter or anything. The number spins, updates, shows me how many listings match my search criteria at this time, so I'm not updating. We'll go to status, because your statuses are the same. It default selects those statuses. I could select one status. I just want active listings. Or I can select multiple statuses at the same time. Now, this is more of a computer tip than anything, but to select more than one item in a list, on your PC, you would hold down a control button. On a Mac, it's a command button, but if I hold that down, I can select more than one item in a list. If I decide, I've highlighted all of those, but I just don't want pending, if I clicked pending right now, it would wipe away all the other choices. I'd have to hold that control or command button down again and deselect it. Now let's just look for a second, sold or closed listings. Since I have an off-market status selected, the dates below open up, and you'll see these little black toggles. You might have seen me just click that. So you can either put in your date ranges as specific dates. I want to know sold listings between June 1st and June 30th. Or you can click those little back and forth black arrows that are very tiny to see here, and you could switch it to a relative date range search. So I believe you all are familiar with that, but maybe I'm more interested in sold listings for the past 25 days. Now, doing it this way with the relative date range search is almost like a really specific hot sheet when you narrow down the criteria, because every time you run the search, if you were to save it, it would run back 25 days from the present day. Whereas if I would have picked June 1st to June 25th, every time I run the search, if I save it, will only run June 1st to June 25th. So you pick the date way you want to run the dates. If I switch this to a relative date range search, next time I log in, the system remembers that I like using relative date range searches. So you might have seen when I logged in, you saw the relative date range. And if I want to go back to the opposite choice, I can just click those little black back and forth arrows. We will stick to active listing. And I'm not going to go through every field, but I do want to point a few things out. Your areas are here. You can either just select areas, or you can just type in the letter. So if I just want area G, I can type in G, and when I enter a tab to the next item, it searches for G. If I wanted G, D, and C, I could just separate them by a comma, hit enter, and it would search all three. And you do not have to select an area to select a sub-area. You could go to the sub-area list without ever going to the area list. It'll be long, but you can. Or, since I've already selected G as my area, if I go to the sub-area list now, it's narrowed it down to just the G sub areas. So I could select one or all of those, or a couple. Now you know the rest of your fields. We'll narrow this down by price because we're going to do some examples here, so I'll narrow this down. If you do not put a high price on, it'll just do and up, so 350 and up. So you want to do that range, you can. And same for bedrooms, baths, etc. So now I've got some criteria and I'm narrowing down my listings. And I want to talk a little bit about the fields over here. Because your MLS told us, okay, put these fields in your typical quick search template. But one of you might come in here and say, okay, I never, for whatever reason, deal with these waterfront option fields. I've never touched them before. So in this quick search template, they're just really taking up space, and I have to scroll by them every time I do a quick search, and they're kind of in my way. I might use them once in a blue moon. So if I look at this waterfront options here, you'll notice that there is an X to the far right. And I can click that and remove whichever fields I want that I'm not using right now. So I'm going to remove all those waterfront fields. They're not gone forever. They're just kind of hidden. And I can always pop them back in at any time I need to. So I got rid of those. All the rest of these fields look good. I typically use some of these. But that's only about 14 or 15 fields. There's a heck of a lot more residential searchable fields. So we do that on purpose so each of you can customize this template to your liking. So you'll see at the bottom, there is a white box with a green plus sign, and it says add a field to the search. Tapping your mouse in there, every searchable field for residential is in this box. You do not have to scroll through that. You can if you're curious and you're not sure what all the fields are, but I'm sure you are. But let's just say I know that I want to have pool as an option in my template because I have a lot of people who search for houses with pools. In that box where I clicked my mouse, if I just start typing pool, the list auto-completes to any field that has pool in it. So maybe I'm going to add outdoor above ground pool, and why not? I'll do that again, and I'll add outdoor in-ground pool. So I have added those searchable fields. I'm not searching on them yet, though. So note that I haven't checked the box to search. Now, let's say for whatever reason you also have a lot of customers come in who are interested in various appliances and are always saying, well, I want a house with a double oven and a garbage disposal and a cooktop, range, whatever. You could add those fields individually like we just did for the pool options, or you could click on the header of the whole group of appliances, and when you do, the entire appliance group has now been added to my template. Again, not searching on them yet. So you remove and add as many fields as you would like to the template so it looks like a template that you would often use. So when you come back in, forget the search for a second and we'll just think of the fields that I added to the template and remove. You come in tomorrow and you want a search template that has all those waterfront options removed, the appliances and the pool fields already there, rather than having to run through those steps again. Go ahead and go to the Save button, and there's an option to save that quick search template. And you could save as many of those quick search templates as you want. I see a hand.
Do you have a home condition field?
Did you have a home condition field before?
Yeah, 4A, 3A, 2A, or a repossessed or foreclosure field?
If it's a field you have before, you have it now. If it's not a field you had before, I didn't see anybody adding new fields. So I'm guessing it was not a field you had before. So, and that's if there's a field you want or you need that you didn't have before, that's more of directed to your MLS because I don't have your fields. Yes.
I assume you can probably drag and reorder them.
Actually, you don't drag and reorder them here. I'll show you where you do that. Let's just quickly click Save, and we'll save this quick search template. And we're going to call this test, gosh, at this point, probably 12. We'll use 6. And we're going to save that template. So we're not saving the field, the criteria like selected or anything. We're just saving those fields. So the next time I go to do a search, and I go to quick search in the morning, I have my templates, and at the bottom there's test 6 that I just added. If I click Use, I have a brand new search, no criteria selected, but the waterfront options are not there, and the pool 2 fields that I added and the appliances fields are now in there. So I just wanted to point, I know you understand quick search templates, but I wanted to get the difference between just the template and adding and removing, and then we'll talk about saving the search with the criteria. Now, to answer your question, under this preferences menu, you have your quick searches here. So you could start creating quick searches from there as well. In there is where you can go into specific ones and reorder all of the fields. So it's not necessarily a drag and drop on this side, but you do it there. That's a good suggestion. So yes, sir.
The or button.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want an above ground pool. I just want an in-ground pool.
Okay. If you want, I'll explain this in 3 ways. I want an in-ground pool. If I just want an in-ground pool, all I would do is select that. The or doesn't really matter since you're only selecting one item. So it's actually searching for all the other search results plus an in-ground pool. I absolutely dislike above ground pools, and I do not want one. In order to eliminate above ground pool, this or that he's referencing here, if I click on it, it's actually a link, and that switches it to not. So I absolutely do not want an above ground pool, but I would like an in-ground pool. So, and that's used a lot. Maybe I don't want a pool at all. Switch them all to not, because I don't want my kids walking in the backyard falling in the pool. So you can play with it that way. The other way is, but what if I want both an in-ground, this is not ever going to happen probably. This is a really poor example, but what if I want an in-ground pool and an above-ground pool? I'm really picky. It's going to be an odd house. If I switch that or, remember I went or, not, and the listing would have to have all the other search criteria and both. Now that might be more relevant for maybe a refrigerator and a dishwasher, but you get the idea of the Boolean logic of using those links to search. So within each detail group, you can include and exclude individual items. So uncheck those. If I had them both on or, this would actually be searching for either or with more than one. Okay, so we have those options there. Down at the very bottom are additional search options if you want to make sure a listing has pictures, videos, documents. You can get more specific by saying how many documents. So the questions always arise, well, what about this field? What about school district? Could you search on school district 4? Most likely it's probably in here now. The thing we don't search on here is levels of rooms, unless it's a specific field. Master bedroom on main, yes or no. Then that would be laundry on upper, yes.
Can you search multiple school districts?
Yes, absolutely.
Somebody said that you couldn't, it had been in the class.
Well, I don't know what they were listening to or which class they were in. But they're mistaken, because I can type them in with a comma, or I can click on one, hold down my command button, and click on multiples.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Sometimes all of us, by the end of the class, we're all like, can we do that? Sure. Might be half, maybe they were half listening, but we can.
So can you do not a school district then? Like if I do a big map, but I don't want Grand Rapids or whatever.
So I put Adrian in here, and I clicked that or of, not of. Now, I don't know if you could do that for multiple. I don't really know how that would work for multiple. It would be not of all of them. You couldn't do not of this one, but of this one, I believe. So, a lot of options there. Now, again, with the and or of, especially for like the appliance fields and the pools, I don't believe those are required fields for you guys. So even though on some of those details, you might say, I absolutely do not want it to have such and such. You're still at the mercy of the person who entered the listing, because if they completely skipped checking off those details, you can't, there is human error there. So, but for the most part, you'll rule out some of those options. Okay, so we have 120 search results, and before we look at those results, I would like to click on this button here that says Map Search. That's going to bring us to our map. We still have all of our search criteria, but now we have our map here. And I have a backwards mouse, so every time I've done this today, I've zoomed the wrong way. The green little pieces on the map are the active listings. I could click on one of the listings, and that's going to pop a bubble with any information about that listing, a brief bit of information while it's just on this map. Now, a little tip for you guys. If you start selecting, I'm frozen here. If you start selecting active listings, pending listings, and sold listings, we're just going to continue there. And the little the little Monopoly pieces come up and they're green and some are blue and some are yellow. You might look at that and say, okay, I see green, blue, and yellow pieces appearing. How do I know what the green houses are? What do I know what the blue houses are? How do I know what yellow represents? In the bottom right-hand corner, I'm going to have to refresh my screen. I think my internet might have gone out for a second. Hold on. Look at that. Here, 1 second. This is where, if I were an actual agent and I had my draft searches up, that would be really helpful because then I would just pop right back to that search. We're going to go to Bob's search. Okay. Let's get back to thank you for being patient. Let's go back to my map search and what I was talking about. So we've got our green pieces on here. If there's different statuses with different colors represented, in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see a little, and you know what, it's actually falling off the screen the way this is projected, so you're not going to see it. There's actually, I don't know why the screen's projected like that, though. There's actually a circle that's a color wheel. It's right next to that push pin is the last thing you'll see. If I click on the color wheel, it's a color legend. And right now I only have active listings. So it's saying the green are active. If I had closed, it would say blue. But a quick little tip here. In this color legend, if I open up this little list, I can also say I'd like to look at the colors for price per square foot. And it's going to show me from darkest to lightest, darkest being the highest price per square foot, lightest being the lower price per square foot. I like that. I'm a very visual person. So for me to see that, I get that great visual representation of the price per square foot in a certain area based on those homes. Now, we've got our listings here, and I'm going to switch that back to our normal status here. And I want to point out some of the tools across the bottom of the screen. Across the bottom, you will see a little hand. That is a pan tool. Meaning if I click on it, I can drag my map wherever I need to drag it. I can zoom with the tool next to that pan tool. I can double click on the map. I can use the zoom bar. I can even use the little wheel on my mouse. So lots of zoom options, whatever you're comfortable with. We got to get that bouncing Firefox guy to go away. Next to that is what we call our nosy neighbor tool. It's a blue circle with a little white eye. And on this, you could zoom in pretty far, get into a neighborhood, and maybe there's a couple of houses that a particular person is interested in. With the nosy neighbor tool, you may say, okay, I see that these two listings are for sale, but I want to know this house over here, what it's sold for. Even though it's not currently on the MLS as an active listing, I could take my nosy neighbor, wherever that house may be, click on it, and I get another bubble that pops up that gives me a sneak peek into what happened to that particular list. So I can be nosy about it. Next to that it looks like a protractor. It's a measuring tool. This tool is not a tool you save into a search. It's more of a reference for you. I love this measuring tool. Because look right here is an elementary school. And when I was buying my house, I was thinking about someday when my kids were in elementary school, I wanted them to be able to walk to school. And if I'm just looking at this map, I really don't know quite how far that is. I mean, I can look at the key here, but if I click on the listing, as I move, this clocks, and every time I click, in segments and in total mileage. So you can just keep going around and clock the distance between certain places. So it's just a click every time you make a turn. And for those of you who sell properties that might be on a lake, on a waterfront, I think a great idea, switch satellite, zoom in and say, your back porch is exactly X amount of feet from your dock. Or your kitchen window is this many feet from your neighbor's kitchen window. So some full options. And the public, when you put this on the public-facing side, they can use those tools as well. So I'm going to double-click to get out of there. And then the next three tools, I know that you guys are familiar with map shapes, but in FlexMLS, the first shape we have is a rectangle or a square tool. If I click once on the map, that pins down the corner of my shape. I'm not holding down anything, I let go. And as I drag my mouse, I can define the shape as big or small as I want it to be. When I'm finished, I click one more time. So you can put multiple rectangles or squares, whatever you want to call them, on your map. Now, once you get a few of these on here, so we're just searching that search criteria on the left, but just within these shapes. And our next question I usually get is, I got the shapes, can't get them to go away. Start over, this is ridiculous. Now, in order to get these to go away, look on the left-hand panel, and a lot of times I think people don't see this because the left-hand panel, maybe it's scrolled all the way down. So they don't think to scroll it back up. And at the very top, your shapes are listed. And notice, I don't know which rectangle is which. But if I highlight over a rectangle, it highlights on the map, so I know which I'm deleting. So let me delete those shapes. The next shape is our circle or radius tool. And anybody who's already sat through one of my classes is going to be really sick of my not funny, same, and just non-entertaining jokes or examples. But here's some listings. And let's just say we have a couple, and for whatever reason, the husband works right over here in this little road, and he says, okay, I would like to be 2 miles from my place of work. So we click once on the map, and that's going to point the center of the circle. And as I drag, it's going to measure a distance out from that center point in all directions. Well, we'll say 1.5 miles. Okay, so we've got about 1.5 miles. I'm going to click one more time. Let's do that here. So I've drawn a radius 1.5 miles from his job so he can walk over there. And then his wife is me, and she says, well, you're going to be 1.5 miles, so am I. Not fair. So I work over here. So let's go ahead and we'll put this on my job. We'll drag this out and go about 1.5 miles. And click one more time. So right now, any listings in this area are going to plot. Not just the ones that are intersected, but anywhere in both of these shapes. So that's not really helping us. I can visually see it, but it's still plotting any shapes within the radius either of our locations. But look on the left-hand side. It says shape within these circles. That little within, just like the ands and ors, that's also a link. And if I click there, within turns to intersection. So now, everything I've ever wanted and my pool, and 1.5 miles from my job and my husband's job, there's 2 listings. So you only have to take me 2 places and I'm going to find something because I'm really picky. But we've got 2 listings that intersect that match everybody's search criteria. Everybody's happy. Silly example, but you can see how that visually helps with the plotting of listings. Now, the last example here, if I click on intersection, it plots it not within. So anything not within those shapes that I've drawn. Now, maybe perhaps you don't want to be within a certain mileage of a family member. You can draw this on top of their house and be not within 6 miles of them. Or, your airports here. Maybe there's a flight path and you do not want to be within 6 miles of that airport. So some examples of how you could play with those. The tools are fun to use here. So we'll delete these, and we'll look at this last one because we talked about this at the beginning of the class, how you guys have that, I don't even remember what it was called, that they're taking away from you, computer something. Yeah, not sure what that is. I've learned a lot here. I also learned what a pole barn was yesterday. I live in North Dakota. Granted, I'm not from North Dakota, but I had never heard of that. They probably have them. I've just never been on a farm yet there either. So, all right. So let's switch this to a satellite. We've got a cute little neighborhood here. Now, you could certainly zoom in or zoom out. We get a good little view. And I've got my polygon tool. And people use this. Our waterfront customers, maybe on the ocean, they trace out just the shore and get all the waterfront properties. Or maybe on the 17th and 18th hole of a prestigious golf course, there's a little community that people always want to live in that doesn't have its own searchable field. So I can take this polygon tool, and I can click it anywhere on the map. And that pins me down, and you'll see the blue line following me. And I can start to draw and say, every time I click, I can turn a corner. So I'm including these houses on this side of the street. I don't want these houses. I'm including these. Whatever you're outlining. I'm not exactly sure what you're looking for, but there's many options for this. So you take your time, as many clicks as you want. When you get to the end and you're finished, people click and they go, okay, I'm done, I'm done, done, done. And they go to sleep and they get really frustrated, and I don't want you to get frustrated. I just want you to double click and you'll end the shape. Now, one other thing before I double click, I can't intersect over myself, okay? That'll give you an error message. But I don't have to go from beginning to end. I just double click and my shape is drawn. Now, I think polygons are really cool. People who use these, that sounded nerdy, didn't it? I'm a nerd, it's cool. Polygons are awesome. People who use these really do use them all the time. They'll save a ton of them, put them out on IDX, let their customers be able to grab them and pop them over on different maps and find things. So you've got this shape here. And you might say, okay, I want to use this again. I like the shape. I took time to draw it, but I messed up. I forgot to include this street. Now I've got to do it all over again. Well, you don't. You can click on the shape, and there's an edit option on these polygons. I could change the name. I can change the color. I like pink. I can save it to a map overlay, so that's where I would save it and then have access to overlay on any other searches. Remove, or I can edit it like I said. So, okay, I completely forgot to include this piece of this street. Rather than redoing this all, I can just pull my little points. Now I've got that piece of the street in there as well. And I can leave and edit this shape. So, to save you some time. So, once you get the polygons, you start using them, you start saving them. You may or may not have noticed in this location box right here, where my mouse is hovering, if you tap in there, any of your map overlays will pop up, and you can click to overlay them once you've saved them to your maps. Now, I'll remove this as well. And I will point out, I'm using the term overlay for that polygon once I name it, and that's a searchable overlay. Over on the far right, it says overlays there as well. My map overlays that I've created, like that one, if I were to save it, it would be in here. But your MLS has created a counties and a zip codes one. There will be a sub-area one in there as well. You guys, some of the sub-areas changed in some of the associations, so the mapping department is actually moving the lines of it. But you could say that zip code ones, and this zip code one isn't for really searching. It's literally just an overlay. So it shows you where the zip codes are in relation to where you're. Okay? So I have a, yes?
Question. How about Forest Hills Northern? Has anyone, done an overlay for certain schools?
Nobody has done one. You could do one. I will say that for overlays in school districts, that's a tricky one. Because school districts change so often that we've never found anybody to want to have an actual overlay, because if they put out on the web, this overlay is for this school district. Where I live, this school district changes. It goes from here to here. Somebody buys this house because they want their kid in that school district, and then the overlay changed, but your MLS didn't keep up with it, and you could get in trouble. So really, it's more based on just the data field for that.
You probably could go in and trace that one.
You could trace it.
The harder one is the elementary school.
And I think you could trace it. It would be more of, I don't think it's ever going to be it probably wouldn't, in my opinion, be one at the full MLS. That's just my opinion. Yeah. Okay. So Someone? I can apparently not see it all today, guys.
When you're doing these overlays, you want to be specific about a particular group of streets or boundaries, and you're restricted to the map that's shown on the screen.
Right.
So you want to get to the detail, but then you want to expand that so you can see it, but
right.
It's not on the map, because now I'm getting so detailed. I guess I'm not explaining myself well. I want to get very detailed, but I want a big area.
Okay. You want to be able to zoom out as you're creating the overlay?
Is that what I have to do?
You'd have to zoom out as you were creating it. Other options might be you can condense right here this side so you can see it maybe a little better. It also might, and that's a hard one, it might consist of you zooming in and doing what you can, moving the map and editing it and pulling the tabs out. I've never...
So I have to save it and then go back and edit it?
Possibly, if it's a big enough area, there might be some other solutions, but if your mouse zooms in and out, that could be an option as you're drawing it to be able to do that. I think, and I'm saying this, I can move the mouse with the screen with my arrow on my keyboard, but I'm still drawing this shape. So that might solve your problem too, because you might want to be more zoomed in than I am.
She said the problem is that when you get a certain amount of zoom, some of the street names disappear.
Okay.
And often you're trying to search from street to street.
Right.
It's either off the map or the name disappears.
Yeah. So you do what you can expanding it and then zoom into whatever level you need. And then you could use the arrows too. Because if you're making it is a difficult thing, so I don't think there's a perfect solution for that. All right, I have a few more minutes that I really want to show you saving these listings and getting these search results. So I'm going to go to that and I'll answer questions at the end. So let's get our list of search results. We've got 3. That's fine. We'll keep them in that polygon. Now, the list of search results, we call this a view. You have columns of information in front of you. If you would prefer to have a thumbnail photo in this, under the word list here, there's 2 little icons, and the one on the right will expand it and give you a thumbnail view. Now, any of these columns can be sorted. Click on the header, and you could sort ascending or descending. If you don't like the columns of information in front of you, you would click on View. We won't go into that today. You just click on there, and you could change what columns are in front of you. So if you are someone who only deals with closed listings, and you just want to see sold price and sold date, you can make it so this has the name of the property, maybe the property type, sold date, sold price. Whatever you want, you put those in there.
Could you drag you wanted to see residential Grand Rapids, sub area, and then school district and then acres? Could
You don't drag them here.
Okay.
When you go into that view button and you're looking at the fields to add or remove, you have all your fields here, you can just drag and drop them in whatever order you want. You can also click and rename it. So if it were to have said days on market and it's making the field really big, you could just change it to DOM, which has already been done. So you got to see that anyway. Oh, okay. So next to the list tab here is the details tab. This is where you are going to find what you are looking for. You are looking for the reports. You are looking for all the listing data. You're looking for the history, tax info, documents. Everything relevant to this listing will be on this detail tab. Documents last to pull in because I don't think all of them are there yet. They will be. As far as the reports are concerned, we have tried to mimic the reports from your old system. We are not your old system, so they will not be exactly the same. You have put all your fields on there. Your MLS has double-checked them. I actually helped make these reports, and you make them from the old system, and I put them on the new one. So if a field happened to not be on here, it might not be on here. So if you say, I don't see such and such a field on this report, just let us know. And it's another thing. It does take sometimes other people's eyes to say, hey, you forgot this field, and we'll pop it on there. But we tried to pay a lot of attention to detail there. And when I drop down that report button, lots of report options. Again, public and private, it's the same report. Public just hides all of that private information. So the commissions and the listing agent information that is not a public field, whatever yours is, would suck out of there. And there's some really cool reports because we have a whole report writer called a Tessera report writer. And those are more of your flyers. They're prettier. We have quite a few of those in here, but if you go into our report writer and use the Tessera reports, they only stay at one page. They will not spill over. They're more fancy reports maybe you'd put out at an open house. The boxes will only allow you to have as many fields as the container holds. It'll give you an error if it doesn't. And there's quite a few you'll see as you start to look that you can really make them look pretty. And you just drag and drop the fields in there. So it's very easy to utilize. And the final tab here is the Photos tab. Look at your listing photos and scroll through. There is a double arrow on the bottom left-hand side. That would bring you to a full screen slideshow. This is not true full screen because the pictures brought in were smaller. as you start loading pictures in Flex MLS, they will be true full screen. It'll automatically advance through. You can change the timing of that. But we have a lot of people, even in our Fargo area, using this for promotion. All of my office listings, hit play, it goes through the first listings pictures, goes to the next one, and it just keeps going on a big screen right outside their office, rather than dumping them all into PowerPoint. Okay, so finally, let's select a few of these listings here. All right, let's say we're working, they're already working for Bob, so let's try this again. We're working, and we've selected 7 listings here. You can see it says 7. We have 108 listings. At any time, we could go back and edit this search right here, change all the search criteria. When we go back to the list tab, or the details or photos, those 7 selected will always be there. So we're working with John, and John changes his mind in his search, but he still likes these 7. Go do a new search, put 3 more with those 7 from a different search. So when you're in this screen, you can go back. And John says to us, could you just save those 7 listings? I want to see them at another time. Go ahead and save them for me. That's no problem. I can click the save button, and there's an option to save those selected. He's going to come back in a week and view them. So we'll save the selected and name them John. Now, what this is doing is saving them to a collection or a cart, whichever you're used to, a listing collection that we can access at a later time. He comes back in a week. We can open up the collection from our search panel, look at John's collection, and it's in real time. So if one listing sold, one had a price change, one had expired, that would reflect within that collection, so we immediately know. Now, collections are neat. People use them, some don't, some watch listings. But now we've got mobile, and we've got apps. And on the apps, you can see carts, you can create carts. So think about this. John and you are going out on Monday morning. Saturday is the last time you're going to be in your office. So Saturday, you print out those 7 listings, have that information. You guys go out on Monday. Something could have changed. Granted, you might check the computer, but say you don't. So you've got almost stale data in your hands. You have the listing collection automatically as synced to your app. You didn't have to do anything. So I can open up my Flex MLS app, click on John's collection, see all 7 listings and exactly what's going on with them right now. Oh, we're showing up to this one and it just had a 2.5% reduction. I know it right now. Or he wants to know the square footage. I can scroll through my app and save 7 trees. So just collections are going to have, not 7, I know. But collections are going to have, I think, a lot more meaning the more people are using their mobile devices. 2 more things. One is if you would like to directly email these listings, a manual email. I've got these listings selected. And next to that save button, there is an email button. So all your function buttons are always up here. When I click email, it says, do you want to email a printer-friendly or an interactive? You can email a printer-friendly. It's going to be a 1-page report, and that's fine. I would recommend the interactive version, and I'll preview this and show you why. When I click on interactive, you might look at this and say, geez, that's a lot of choices to send an email. That's a little daunting. Well, the left-hand side is what I was talking about earlier. Which listings do you want to send? What do you want to send? I don't want that supplement sent. I can uncheck it. I don't want a mortgage calculator. I can uncheck it. I do want whatever public tax info he can see. So it's always going to send the public version, but you select what you do and do not want. I don't care that this listing has 500 photos. He's getting the photos. On the right-hand side, you decide who you're sending it to. I don't have John as a contact. You could add him just for time's sake. I'm going to click on Jenny here. That's his wife. And it's going to look like it sends from you. So from your email address. You can be copied, give additional email addresses, or even be notified when he views this report. And then you compose. Dear John, here are your listings. Dear John. Now, when I'm ready, I click email. John's at home. He opens up his inbox. It says, John, dear John, here are your listings. And there's a blue link. Click here to view your listings. He clicks, and this is what he sees. My branding with my headshot, or flowers, those 7 listings that we sent him in an interactive view. So this is why I'm saying no matter how many pictures there are, it's not going to take him longer to look at this listing than it is this one. He can just go through, and it looks just like your view, except the public version. I have never had somebody come to me and say, my customers could not figure this out when you emailed it to them. It was too difficult. Anybody can look at this. I don't even think you have to be able to read. And you can start clicking and find the photos, find the list. You know, that's what they want. They want the pictures and they want to know how much it costs. So they can look at this information. So that is a manual email. Now the final thing is, so John's seen all of those listings. He's not particularly impressed with the ones he's seen, but whatever search we did, and I'm cheating getting back to a search here, whatever search we did, he says, okay, from this point forward, I want to receive listings that match that search criteria, however often. Not the ones that I've already seen, but the ones from this point on. So that would be creating that automatic prospecting event, save this search, create auto. And this is the part I told you guys, some of you would be asleep and you'll have to watch the video. But we need to first save the search. We've done the search for him. We navigate right to that same search button, or save button, gosh. And we're going to use the selection that says save the search. I am going to save this as a new search for John. I've obviously used John a lot. Describe the search. He'll see the description if you utilize the portal, so remember that. It's not that John is tall, dark, and handsome. It's that John wants a 3-bedroom house. So I can either save the search there and that's all, or I can save and add an auto email, which is what we're trying to accomplish. Save and add an auto email brings you to yet another email screen, but this is actually setting up the event. So this is what you're going to want to do. Search, save, auto email. Names the event. We have a preview mode that was requested by a customer. Say John is very picky. And although you have this search for him, he says, but if a listing comes up and has white bricks and black shutters, I do not want it. And do not send it to me. You can turn preview mode on. You get the auto email. You select the listings you know he would want to see and forward them on. John's really annoying. You can send a notification of new listings to yourself, selected contacts, and you can even get an email when John views the listings each time. Now, a couple contacts, that's fine. If you have 40 contacts getting auto emails, I doubt you want emails back from all of them. You can go in and change these settings at any time. You can add a contact or contacts. I'll tap in here, and we'll just add Jenny to this. And then finally, you're going to schedule. You could schedule this to be monthly, daily, weekly, or ASAP, meaning every single time a listing comes on the market that matches his search, he gets a notification. Now, if I don't want emails on Sundays, John doesn't want emails on Sundays, if listings come out on Sundays that match his search criteria, he'll get them in his Monday email. Tuesday, say no listings, he won't get an email until the next time. And you have to also just compose the text, the content, but I would say very generic. Here's your listings, because he could be getting this for months at a time, this auto prospecting event. But I want to be clear here. John has seen the 108 results of the search already. We've manually emailed him some. When this starts firing, this automatic email, he will not see those 108 listings. He sees listings from this point forward. Okay, 'cause these are just the auto prospecting events. We also have portals that can go with this. You can turn it on for him where all of the matching listings, that search will go in there. And he can dislike, favorite, social media, all of his listings. That will be in that contact management webinar coming up. That's just another step of another thing I didn't want to, overwhelm you guys with. But once you save, the search has been saved and the auto email has been created. And then finally, just so you know, everybody asks me, how do I know the emails are sending? And how do I know that manual email sent? Well, under your contacts, you can see your sent and automatic emails, not the contents of them, but this email sent to this email address at this time on this day, and it's been clicked on 5 times. So you can go through and view that. And contact management is where you would go to look at all your contacts, change their information. You would click on them. You've seen me do this now. To look and see their searches, their auto emails. If you need to edit something, link them to a new search, turn a portal or website on for them, and so on. So again, if you are really interested in portals, I would say you can, pop over to that tutorial if you want to get yours set up right away, because I know your contacts, you're still working with your buyers, and they're going to want to be informed immediately. You can get all these set up for them. I'm running a couple minutes over, so I'm going to stop and say, first of all, thank you for being here and all your awesome questions. I'm going to stay here. If anybody has additional questions, I will stay to answer, but if not, go and hopefully the rain is done, maybe, for the day. So have a good afternoon.